You see, life has a curious way of shaping us before it ever gives us what we want. Life has a unique way of molding us before it gives us the satisfaction of what we want. And it is here that many of us, we find ourselves confused. Many of us, we find ourselves lost. And that is something that is important that we must reflect about. Before the universe or the infinite intelligence, or you call life, entrust you with responsibility, before it allows you to carry what you really desire, it does something utterly merciless. It makes you to stand alone. Life makes you stand alone before it gives you anything that is ever going to be useful for you. Life makes you to question yourself, question your sanity. It will make you feel rejected by those people that are so close to you, those people you want to hold so dear to you. It will make you be abandoned by every one of them. Life will peel off every facet of your life, of everything that you hold dear. It will peel it off before it gives you a deserving reward. Now, you see, this solitude, this standing alone, isn't merely the absence of people. You can be alone in the midst of a crowd. You can be alone even in a marriage, in a monastery, in a busy street. The aloneness I'm speaking is of a deeper, more mental state. It is when every support you thought was permanent is stripped away. Your reputation goes to the ground. The wealth you built or that which you try to manage to save gets taken away from you, or gets shaken off. Your friend falls silent. They no longer want to talk to you. They no longer want to speak to you. And you feel just alone. Even your idea about God gets torn away from your own hand. And there you are, like a tree in winter, without leaf, without fruit, without shelter. You're just there, naked. It is in this nakedness, in this aloneness, that something unique starts happening in your life. Most of us, we cannot bear this unique thing that starts happening to us. Most of us, we cannot bear this feeling of being alone. Many of us, we crumble to find, a certain solution. We get scrambled in the distraction of this feeling of aloneness. We run to new gurus, new teachers, new entertainment, new drugs, new philosophies, anything just to avoid the desert of alone, the desert of silence. But here's the irony. The desert is the very doorway. The silence, the aloneness, the neglect that you feel is the very doorway for your soul. It is the silent womb. It is in that silence that you finally start finding yourself. At first, you don't like it. You don't like the feeling. You don't like the emotion it brings out of you. You find fear. You find boredom. You find anger that you don't even know you had. The silence brings all of this to the surface like mud rising in clear water. This silence is what the ancient teachers always say. Before you can be entrusted with anything that is useful, before you can be entrusted with a throne, you must first wrestle with your shadow. And silence will show you what your shadow is. Your true self is not what people project to you. It's not what negative things people do to you. That is not your true self. Your true self, you'll find it in the silence of your life. Think of this story. Moses in the desert for 40 years. Jesus for 40 days and 40 nights, face to face with the temptation. Buddha alone under the Bodhi tree, demons mocking him. The Sufi in his retreat, the yogi in his cave. You see, all of these stories or these narrations you've always hear about, all of these narrations you've been very familiar with, are all part of the indications that it is in silence that you find God. It is not in a temple, it is not in a church, it is not in a mosque, but rather in the silence of your own being. Why does every path begin in solitude? Because if you cannot face yourself in silence, you will only use others as your distraction, your escape, your mirror. And that is not rulership. That is not what it means to be a leader. You cannot lead others if you have not been able to lead yourself. You cannot give guidance to others if you've not been able to give guidance to yourself. And how do you give guidance to yourself? You give guidance to yourself in the silence of your heart. It is in that silence of your heart that you become nothing but a slave to your own self. But if you endure, if you allow the silence to strip you bare, something marvelous happens. You begin to hear. At first, it is only the sound of your breath, the faint pulse in your vein, the rustles of the leaves and the wind moving up and down, blowing. That is what you're going to hear. But if you continue to listen, you begin to hear something different. You begin to sense that silence itself is not empty, it is alive. Silence is not empty, it is alive. It is pregnant. It breathes with you. It holds you. And slowly, like dawn creeping over the horizon, you realize you are not alone at all. You've never been alone at all. What you called God, what you called the eternal, what you call Tao, what you call Buddha, what you call Jesus, what you call Muhammad, what you call Allah, what you call your guru, is all nothing but different variegations of silence. But you couldn't hear it because your ears were full of noise. Your mind was occupied with other people's thoughts. You couldn't see it because your eyes were full of distractions. So life, in its ruthless mercy, takes away your props, your friends, your comfort, until you can finally behold what was never absent. In that moment of realization, you discover the paradox. When you stand most alone, you are most accompanied. Now, why is this necessary before receiving a kingdom, before receiving a mantle? Because without silence, you will mistake kingdom as yours. Without silence, you will mistake the appraisal of people as what you think you deserve. You will think the power is yours. You will rule from fear, from ego, from insecurity. But the one who has been broken open by solitude knows better. He knows the crown is not his. The praise is not his. The joy of people seeing you is not yours. The anger of people is not yours. Even your own anger is not yours. You are only a caretaker. You become transparent, a vessel through which the greater self moves. It is rather like being a flute. The flute that makes no noise, just empty. What is the natural nature of a flute? It is to make noise. But in this case of the silence, you now become a flute, but a flute that makes no noise. And precisely because it is empty, the breath can move through. So too, the man who has been emptied by silence, the woman who has been emptied by silence, who has been hollowed out of the solitude, becomes the instrument, the divine breath, move through such a person. And the melody of his kingdom flows freely in such a person. So do not fear the silence. Do not run from your loneliness. It is not a punishment, it is a preparation. For in silence that you find yourself, and in finding yourself, you discover the self of all being. And then, and only then, life places a crown upon your head. Not the crown of ego, but the crown of service, the crown of awareness, the crown of one who knows. There is no kingdom but God's. There is no achievement but that of the infinite intelligence, and no ruler but the silent self. A man, a woman that cannot rule themselves with silence becomes nothing but a caricature of people, a caricature of the society. So when you find yourself standing utterly alone, take heart. The joy and the kingdom of the infinite intelligence is closer to you than you ever know. You see, silence will break you, take you away from your religion. In that silence, your religion, the comfort zone of your religion, no longer makes sense to you. Even the God you worship that you hold so dear no longer becomes attractive to you. The people, the social gathering of people you want to be around with, they no longer becomes comforting to you. Now you might start thinking that something is wrong with you, or that people might start saying that, oh, you've changed, or something is wrong with you. But yes, indeed, something is wrong, for something is metamorphizing inside of you. And that there is the wisdom of silence. A man or a woman does not gain wisdom by noise. Wisdom is gained in silence. Even in the battle of Mahabharata, of Kurukshetra, when Krishna was instructing Arjuna in the topmost form of knowledge, in the noisy environment, but it is in the innermost nature, the core essence of Arjuna, that Krishna was instilling his teachings. For at the end of his conversation, he says to Arjuna, have you truly heard me? Can you hear God in noise? Can you hear God in crowd of people? No. What you hear is nothing but the emotional jumbles of other people jumping left, right, center, and you are picking up as signals. It is only when you've been able to embrace your own inner silence that even when you are in the midst of people, you are also not in their midst. Even when you are in the midst of most chaotic circumstances, you are also not in it. You become the doer without action. Think about it. Follow me for more. Bye.